What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Coin Vigilante show and podcast. So today we have Mitch. He's a guy that's a really influential person that I've actually ran into at a crypto meetup. He's been on Twitter. He's been into crypto for a couple of years. He's ran even a crypto campfire podcast, I believe, and got to actually interview or have Gary Vee on his show. He's done a lot of good things. So he's going to bring a lot of interesting points of view, from positivity to mindset to crypto and life in general. So I'm going to bring him into the show. And, without further ado, Mitch, welcome to the show, man.
Hey guys, how are we doing today?
Oh, we're doing good. We're ready for this, man. So,
Heck yeah. Good to
hey,
see you,
so
Carlos.
yeah, we're good, man. So, like I said, we met like a couple months ago at one of Clint Westwood
We
and
met we met in June at the meetup at the Clint Westwood meetup
yeah.
um in Illinois.
Yeah, that was fun. It was kind of cool. It was my first meetup ever in person, meeting crypto people. For like forever, everyone is imaginary. It was like
Yeah.
so you don't know anyone, so you don't know what's going on, but you actually get to meet real people, and I met you, and we clicked, and so I wanted to bring you on. For the people that don't know you, real quick, can you go 1 to 2 minute, kind of like background of how you've come to be, why you're into crypto, how you're in this whole crypto thing.
Sure. So I'm a carpenter, been a carpenter for 33 years now. I do a lot of custom carpentry work, hence my handle on Twitter is Cuss Carpentry. Um, and so I joined or got into cryptocurrency because my pension as a carpenter, a union carpenter, the pension wasn't going to be enough, fulfilling enough by the time I retired, and I was even worried whether it'd still be there based on a whole lot of factors. And so I wanted to start investing, and cryptocurrency seemed to be the way to go. So I came into the space, and within a short period of time, I was an admin for a project. And then, it was a project that was pretty much headed up by John McAfee. And then I got into a couple other projects. Well, then the professor who was an admin for that same project and I decided to start a podcast. So we started the Crypto Campfire podcast, and the rest on that is history. We have quite a few episodes, some really amazing guests, like Carlos said. We had Gary Vee on the show, and in my opinion, that's probably one of the top five, if not the top three podcasts that we ever did, just because Gary and I seem to click on a spiritual on a level that you don't really click with too many people on, and we just jived really well. The flow was amazing, and he's just an incredible guest. And so that's kind of how I got, into a lot of the crypto sphere. Was more so from the podcast and venturing out, getting our name out there. We went to a lot of different venues, Litecoin Summit, um, Crypto Invest Summit in California. And that was pretty incredible. That was our first like what do they call that when you not reporter, but media. Anyways, we got
Yeah.
media passes, but anyways, yeah. So that was kind of how all this stuff began. Ever since I've been on Twitter, I've been a really positive person. I've always my outlook on a lot of things have changed drastically over the years, just because of age and wisdom, and learning things and learning to see things through different lenses. And I've been in crypto since 2018, and so now it's kind of evolving, right? Everything evolves, and you always tend to grow. And so I wanted to put out more positive energy to people, so I started Mitchie's Motivational Mondays, and that's just a positive channel that I have. I go out every Monday morning, and I'll put a few minutes, 5 to 10 minute episode on something positive, something uplifting, words of wisdom, so to speak. And there's a thing, it's all about mindset. And when we wake up in the morning, Mondays are typically the worst day of the week
Mhm.
because People are dreading going to work on
Oh yeah.
Sunday night already, dreading having to get up and go to work, the old grind. We are so stuck in this grind of every day to day, get up, go to work, humdrum bullshit, and so I wanted to create a way for people to start out that Monday morning on a highly positive note with a lot of positive energy and just good vibes coming their way to set them up right for the week and to help set that mindset for the week. So, meeting you and your lovely bride, just has been just an incredible part of the whole adventure.
Yeah.
And I always lived by, you can never meet too many people, but you'll only really connect with only so many.
Yeah, true.
And so having connected with you guys the way I have, and having you all become basically part of our family, like, Clint Westwood, Litecoin Lisa, myself, Paulie P, the whole gang, just
Yeah.
all of our really close onion friends, the ones that are closest to the center circle. And, that's just a pretty amazing thing. So,
Yeah, those were good times, man. And I kind of want to hit on that positivity aspect that you were mentioning, because you do the motivational Monday, which I really need, or especially I needed a couple weeks ago. Man, every Monday I was like, come on, what's happening
right.
today? So, but anyway, one of the guys that I follow big time, and even his business models, is Gary V. So Gary Vaynerchuk, he's just a killer entrepreneur. He comes up with so many motivational videos. But one of the things that really hit me that one time was that everything he does from a business standpoint is positivity. And that's how he runs his business model. So he doesn't run it with like a mean type of look. He's not mean to his employees. He's not doing this. It drives positivity. And he's like, if you are positive with everything that you do, with your business, with the message that you put out there and everything, you will see an ROI that is like beyond the limit. And it's so interesting because it's true. And I've tried to live by that rule, is you got to use positivity in everything that you do. And you know what? Because, there was a point where I was just being really negative with, like, which is fine. I got to speak my mind. Like, the government screwing us by printing money, this and that, blah, blah. And, there's too many negative things going on that are pushing us down. But, by actually being more positive with what I'm doing, it's actually helped me. And another thing, you never know who the heck you're talking to.
That's
You
right.
never know. So, all of these watches that I've sold, over the past couple months, more than 500 watches, there are people that have like 1 follower, 20 followers, 30 followers, have like a random name on their Twitter handle. And you would have never thought that, it's just, you don't know who you're talking to. You don't know who you're selling to. You don't know who you might be talking to, your future boss. And so by having that positivity being in the background of everything, you're putting yourself in a good spot and you're doing everyone else a favor. I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts on positivity, at least from a business standpoint, if it makes any sense?
Well, touching on what you just said, there's something to be said about how you approach things in life. And, when you talk about putting positivity first, when you treat people with such a high regard, regardless of the situation, regardless of the context of your environment, when you treat people with that level of respect, it's amazing what you get back in return. Okay, so a little more background, touching on this same thing. I was in the military, I was in the United States Army, and then I did a lot of leadership development courses in the military. And as a carpenter, I've been a lead foreman. So I've ran some pretty big jobs and had a bunch of guys working for me. And this really ties into what you were saying about Gary. Like every morning when the crew would get together, I would always bring these guys up. I would always build them up, and I would always talk positive to these guys, even in a negative environment, even in a negative situation, like say they did something wrong or screwed something up. All of it's about approach. If you approach somebody with and put that and disarm them before you even start the conversation, like, hey man, how's it going? Man, you guys are killing it today. This is awesome. There's one thing I did notice though, and do you think you could pay a little more attention to something like this? And so when you approach things in that positive way, and it really affects on how people respond to you.
Yeah.
So, um, Clint Westwood always says that, I have a lot of patience, like say on Twitter, even for arguments. The fact of the matter is that everybody deserves to have a chance to speak, and everybody deserves to have a chance to be challenged to think.
Yeah.
So when you get into a conversation with somebody, the best thing that you could ever do is challenge that person to think. Don't tell them they're wrong. Don't tell them they're right, but give them that opportunity to think based on how you approach the situation. So I don't know. I haven't been this way my whole life, obviously. I'd say in the last 4 years, and even more so in the last year, just that level of positive energy, starting out on the right foot every day, get up, instead of, it's all a mindset. Like if you go into any situation, Carlos, and you say, man, this is really going to suck, guess what? You're setting yourself up for failure right then and there. It's going to suck, almost
Mhm.
guaranteed. But if you go into it with that mindset, like, no matter what happens, this is going to be awesome. And
Yeah.
it's amazing how energy, because they say that likes attract likes, correct?
Mhm.
So if you have positivity attracts positivity. And if you treat somebody with positive energy, they cannot help but treat you that way in return.
Yeah.
Even though they
Good
might
point.
be on edge, they might be angry, they might be pissed off at the world, but if you treat them with love and respect, you're going to get that same back. It's going to be almost impossible for them to come at you or continue to come at you with a negative fashion.
Yeah. And that's kind of crazy to think about because it's all about who you surround yourself with. That's another thing that Gary Vee,
Yes.
talks about. And a lot of influential people that talk about businesses, entrepreneurs, like you got to surround yourself with the right people. And that is
Hmm.
actually part of the reason why I do a podcast. And hey, you know what? I actually encourage everyone who's watching, like if you want to do your own podcast and try to get people to talk to you, freaking do it right now. Like, look, we're on the same team trying to push for adoption and trying to become better people. So to me, every time I do a podcast, number one, I do it for the audience, right? I try to, in a way, how would I say it? Give something to the audience, something they can take away from it, right? Put something on the table, value. Okay. So if they can gain value, that's a big win for me. Two
Hmm.
is I always come to these podcasts too because I can learn from it and I get to pick on people's brains. So like, I'm talking to you right now. It gets me to think and learn different things that I would never hear, right? I'm surrounding myself with different thoughts, ideas. Same thing with like when I interviewed Charlie Lee. Like when the you know, I'm surrounding myself with his way of thinking, his finance views, his idea of what store value is, and all these type of things. Crypto burb, all these people. And so that's a good point. And you want to be surrounded with people that push you up. And you know
Yes.
what's funny? And again, I'm gonna go back to Gary. We should just rename this like
Yeah, the
title of the
Gary V.
podcast, be like the Gary V episode
Yeah, right.
or something. But it's
There's a
just
saying that I always said, I have always said, it's not how high up the ladder you can get in life, but it's how many people you can pull up with you.
yeah. That's a good thing to live by. And, the funny thing is, Gary Vee tells you usually the people who pull you down are the closest people to you your best friend, your wife, or your husband, or your mom and your dad who tell you, you can't go for that dream. You can't do
Right.
this. It doesn't make any sense. That's not, it's too risky. It's too that. And, I've actually experienced it firsthand. Um, because of the watches that I, did.
That's amazing how you guys
It's the
pulled that off.
craziest thing, and because I was doing my master's degree at that time, and it was a business master's degree, which taught you nothing about business. They didn't teach anything about money, what money actually is, how it works, what you should do with it, finances. They just told you how to find X and Y on a chart and just do a bunch of calculus. That's not, you don't apply that. And so back then I was into Bitcoin, Litecoin. I'm like, I want to create something that reminds me of the importance of sound money because sound money actually protects the time that you spend on your 9 to 5, right? It creates a store of value. Your purchasing power goes up. It protects it. On the other hand of the story, right, you have fiat, which is printed out of thin air. And every time you get paid with that 9 to 5 that you put in, sweat, effort, tears, whatever, you lose your purchasing power. So it doesn't respect your time. So I was like, I want to create something. And what better than, a timepiece that represents time. Right. And so I did that, and I decided, look, I can't focus on that unless I quit my master's. And so I quit my master's. People were like, what in the hell are you doing? Like they thought I was nuts. And, you know, that was my dad was like, what are you doing? What's going on? Or people were looking at me weird. Right. But sometimes you just got to go out there and just kind of try it out, because there's no secret recipe to do things. And that's one thing I learned. The funny thing is, like a year and a half later, the school kind of realized that, I came up with something big, and they told me, hey, we want to interview you so you can talk about it. So the irony of, like, the school that I dropped out of does an interview about my success with Kickstarter. It's just kind of funny. And it just shows that once you start on something, if you keep going and you surround yourself with the right people, something eventually, doors open to where it leads you to success one way or another. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I just think I don't know.
Well, you're absolutely right, and I just want to say this: my earbuds are probably going to die, so then I'll switch over to my phone microphone. Hopefully,
Okay.
that still works out. But life is all about those who you surround yourself with. We are products of our environment. If you want to be successful, you surround yourself with successful people. That's just rich dad, poor dad, right? I mean,
I'm
perfect
reading
book.
his book right now. I'm reading his book right now.
And so you surround yourself with people that you aspire to be similar to. And the best thing about being a human is being able to decipher what it is that we're learning, what it is that we're seeing, right? So, like, you could take parts of Gary Vee, and you could take parts of this guy and parts of that guy, and kind of formulate your own way to get through life. But you're building it with all these positive parts of other people's attributes, right?
Yeah.
So you build your own model, so to speak, but the pieces that you use to build it are all pieces of everybody else that you interact with.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of a neat perspective to look at it.
Yeah. So, and that is interesting. And so I want to mention something, since you mentioned Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm reading his book, and I'm currently at a part where, the rich dad is teaching, the kids about the schooling system, how the schooling system teaches how to be a worker, right?
Hmm.
So they don't teach you how to think beyond that. So, you go through the schooling system, they teach you how to do numbers, whatever. Then you go to college.
It's all
And
because we're designed to be slaves to this government,
to,
slaves to society.
to the system, right? And it makes perfect sense. And so the kids were like, well, how do we get past that? And he was like, look, there's, a lot of what drives people into sticking at that same job and not getting out of it and not pushing beyond that is fear of money, right? So you are fearing about paying bills in a couple weeks and doing this, doing that. And it's interesting how we have this connection of fear and desire, right? And that is things that are connected to money. And oftentimes in that book, it says that the reason why we can't jump out of that bubble is because we react to that fear and that desire, and we don't step back and hold on. Okay, so we have these emotions, they're going to happen. I got to sit back and just think for a second before I, react to those emotions. And so, and it's just interesting because he goes to say, like, I mean, the system teaches you to be a worker, but it does not teach you anything about money, about how to handle money, right? And I still got, like 200 pages to read, but what are your thoughts on that? Because this is real. I think it used to be like $1.4 trillion in debt, student debt, a couple of years ago. It's probably like 3 or 4 now. People, you know, they give you a loan of, let's
Uh,
say, an average of $80,000 for 4 years, or
okay.
50, or 150, or 250 if you go to a nice school, but they don't give you a loan to start a business. So what's the deal with all this? What are your thoughts on the schooling system? or just that I just told you. Like they are giving an 18-year-old, an opportunity to get put in debt for 250K, but they don't give an 18-year-old a business loan.
Right. So what has happened with the schools, and this is based on limited knowledge, but I think what's happened with the college systems is that as soon as the government started guaranteeing the loans, the schooling system, the colleges just said, oh, well, it's a guaranteed loan. So we'll just give a loan to anybody that
Mm-hmm.
wants to go to college. And then we're going to charge them up the yang because they're going to have to pay it. The government's backed it. So we could charge. So that's what I think has caused this big increase in education costs. And like I said, Carlos, from the time we're in grade school until the time we graduate college, we're not taught how to succeed in life. We're taught how to serve.
Exactly.
We're not, and we're not so much taught as much as we are indoctrined into this society and into the system that has become the norm. So, yes, I totally agree on the cost of colleges, the fact that these kids can't get a business loan, but yet they can get a loan to, like you said, $200,000 in debt, and you're 27, 28 years old. How are you going to pay that? I mean,
They can't.
my daughter has student loans that are due. It's like $950 a month. Like how okay, you're a teacher. You don't make that kind of money. How are you supposed to make ends meet paying $950 a month? And people say, well, you chose to go to school. Yes. Okay. Why do people feel the need to go to college? Because employers have required degrees. They don't even care if the degree that you have is anything in the field that you're going to be working in. Just the fact that you accomplished a degree is all that they give a shit about. And the grades don't even matter. But yet you're gonna get out of college with $250,000 in debt. Don't even have a house. So let's not even consider that debt load on top of that. And
Yeah.
then try and struggle to make ends meet to pay for your loan. It's all a bunch of bullshit, and it's all designed to keep us down here, to keep us on this lower level of society as far as income, and to keep us driving and feeding the machine that is above us.
Yep. Oh, it's true. And people get it. Like here we got a comment. Our school system has become indoctrination instead of education, right? It's happening. And,
Absolutely.
speaking of that, like, part of the reason too, so you're totally right. And if I'm too loud or I'm breaking your ears, let me know because you have those
No, you're good.
whatever. But, yes, that policy when the government got involved, because we used to pay directly to the school. That's how it used to be. So the schools were like, well, we need money. We can't overcharge because then we're not going to get paid. But as soon as the government stepped in and said, look, now we're going to give everyone loans. So now if you want to go to school, you can just get loans directly from the government. And, the government is, can print trillions out of thin air. So it doesn't matter, right? So as soon as, just like you said, right?
Yeah.
But, part of the reason why it's so expensive now too, and people, you can't even do a full-time job and pay off your student debt. You can't do it. Before, back in the day, you could work part-time and actually pay off your student debt while going to school.
Right.
Now, what that shows is that problem, the policy of the government getting involved, and two, a failure in money. Because what's happening is money has been completely devalued, that you no longer can work part-time and pay off your school. You no longer can be a father that takes care of a family of 7. Only the father works, the mom stays at home. You have a house, you have everything. Like over time, we've seen the devaluation of money, and it's affected people's time. It goes back to my whole thesis of time and money, right? People's time is not respected. Now you need both the mom, both the dad, even the kids working in order to, have ends meet. And so it just shows and goes back to that Bitcoin thesis, Litecoin thesis, and decentralization, money that people can't really F with, that we need. I mean, it's funny. We talk about all these things, but it always comes back to this, it connects to it. And what are your thoughts? So we got Bitcoin, we got Litecoin. what what are your thoughts with all this in relation to that?
Okay, so what are my thoughts as far as how cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, what kind of problems does it solve? Because I feel like we still got some people that are watching that are like, well, okay, yeah, Bitcoin, I only care about it because it goes up and I want to make money. Like,
Right, and that you see, that's when I first got into crypto, it was about the money,
well, same for
right?
me.
Right, but then the more I realized what it was, the more it became a passion about this movement of freeing ourselves from this tyranny of the central banks. And everything is ran by the central bank. Guess what? Except for cryptocurrencies, except for Bitcoin, except for Litecoin,
Yeah.
except for all of these major Digibyte, all of these major cryptocurrencies, right? The the governments or the big banks, the central banks, don't control these. We, the people, control these, and that's what it's supposed to be about. We, the people, are supposed to control our countries, right? Regardless of what country you live in, if you live in a democratic society, we are supposed to be the ones that make everything go round. And our voices are supposed to be considered when it comes to laws being put into place. And the problem then becomes manipulation of thought patterns, manipulation of media and information that gets bombarded with us. The powers that be have become really good at manipulating. Anyways, sorry, I digress. Back to cryptocurrency. I think it gives us that freedom to be your own bank. It gives you that freedom to travel anywhere in the world and have your wealth with you. And that wealth is the same whether it's in this country or that country or that country. It doesn't matter where you're
Yeah.
at in the world, right? And eventually, what's going to happen is we're going to start really looking at cryptocurrencies how they're supposed to be looked at. A Bitcoin is broken down into Satoshis, a Litecoin is broken down into Latoshis. The problem that we have right now is that everything is pegged to the almighty dollar. Well, we all know that the dollar is crashing. So it's going to cost more dollars to buy these assets because the value of that dollar goes down and the cost of that asset's going to go up. It's just how it works. It's no different than buying a 2x4 at the lumber yard right
Right.
now. So, cryptocurrency then affords us that opportunity to be in something that's sovereign, to be in something that we the people control and have the ability to use its value regardless, and nobody can tell us you can't.
That's powerful. And that's the powerful thing. And it's because it's decentralized, right? Something that the Federal Reserve is not, which is not even federal. And it's not even part of the government. It's not elected politicians. It's just, it's kind of like a crooked bank that's just trying to decide everything. And the fact that we, for the first time ever, because the government can confiscate gold, right? They've done it before. But if
Mm-hmm.
they try to confiscate your Bitcoin, they cannot do. One thing that they can do is, yes, they can tell exchanges, hey, you're going to block these people from, buying anymore. But we're talking about actual money in the blockchain and your private self-custodial wallet. Once you have that, if you put it into your own wallet, untouchable. No one
Peer to
can do
peer.
anything with it. And so
That's
that
right.
it's just an insane technological advancement because we normally think of, yeah, Bitcoin store value, yeah, it goes up. We just want it to go up. The fact that you can send it to someone, I can send it to you right now. I don't even know where you are. Send it to you. Boom, gets to you immediately with Litecoin.
Yeah.
That in itself gives value to Litecoin. A lot of people just think of like the price. The fact that I can use it as a method gives it value. It's not just people buying it that give it value. It's the features that it gives.
Yeah.
That's what drives the value of Litecoin. That's what drives the value of Bitcoin, right? And going back to printing trillions of dollars, the cap, the supply cap. So 20, the 21 million Bitcoin, the 84 million Litecoin. That is an extremely, even to this day, underrated feature that they have. It's unbelievable. You can't make any more
It's
out of it.
deflationary.
Exactly. It's completely the opposite. So I don't know. I think people are going to wake up to it as we keep seeing rampant inflation because they try to cover it up. They try to blame it on other things. They try to cover in the
Well,
war.
that's the sign of a true leader, right? One that blames the problems of his country on another person instead of looking in the mirror.
Right. And so and it's all, it's all a show. But the people that actually know about finance, the people that are actually, like us crypto people, we know it's all BS. And we know that they're trying to, cover it up as long as they can until it implodes. And the people that will be doing okay at that point are going to be the people that hold hard assets, real estate, which, God's not going to make any more of. Maybe commodities. I'm sure they'll do
See,
okay.
the only problem that I see, Carlos, with real estate is the fact that you don't own real estate.
That is true.
You might hold the title, but
They can
guess
take
what?
it.
If you don't continue to pay the taxes on it, it's gone.
That's
So
true.
so then how can the government take your property away from you? They can price your taxes to such a degree that you can't afford to pay the taxes on the property that you own, therefore have to forfeit it.
I've never thought about that.
So the
Oh, that's
best
kind of
thing that
scary.
you can do if you have a piece of property is try and make it a sovereign piece of property. Separate it from all municipalities, make it totally self-sustaining, and then you can actually declare that a sovereign piece of property, and you are no longer tied to the county in which it's in.
Huh.
So there's a lot of research to be done on that, but it is possible. And there's a lot of stipulations to that, like you can never sell it. It would have to be a piece of property that's passed on from generation to generation. Um, and this is a way to kind of circumvent that threat or that possibility of the government actually taking your property because they've taxed it to a point that you can't afford to pay for it.
So really the only unconfiscatable thing is something like Bitcoin, something like
That's
Litecoin.
right. Yeah, exactly.
Really?
Yeah.
So see, people still need to realize that, right? I mean, that's what. Look, I just learned that by listening to you and the Coin Vigilante show, right? You got to watch the Coin Vigilante show. But that's crazy, man. I didn't think about that. Well, never mind. Buy a Bitcoin, buy Litecoin, and just kind of hold it back there. So
Right. Yeah. But
that's
you see,
nuts.
it's all that stuff is an illusion. Like we were all raised on this illusion of the American dream, right? And the American dream was to go to work every day, have a good job, that you had long-term employment. They gave you a few years of supposed to be the golden years of your retirement at the end of working for them. So like 65 years old. Seriously? Okay, so I got 10 years left, and they're not even your best years because you gave your best years to the company, right? And so to have a house that you continue to pay taxes on, to have all of these things that you continue to pay into the system in order to enjoy or to keep. This is a dream. This is what's supposed to be prosperity. I don't know. I think it's kind of messed up, and the only way to get your not get tied up into that whole mindset is to find ways out of the systems.
That's
And cryptocurrencies is that way.
that's really interesting. Yeah. And it goes back to that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. It just says you got to step away from this kind of just worker and server mentality and be able to just risk a little bit and just think for yourself, educate yourself on your own terms, and just try to have that entrepreneur mentality. And that's something that I don't know if you're a fan of Raul Paul or anything, but he said a couple of things. Look, at this time and day and age where inflation is sky high, the government keeps printing trillions of dollars. The young adults are already priced out of homes because they're in student debt, and homes just keep on going up. The only real escape for people at this time, this comes from Raul Paul, is cryptocurrencies, digital assets, and entrepreneurship,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
If whether that's you make your business online, whether you sell whatever, whether you come up with ideas to make money, that's going to be the only way, because you can't just depend on one 9 to 5 job, because the productivity has actually gone up throughout the past 40 years, but the rewards for that productivity have not been reflected. And so your wages are not keeping up with inflation. Your wages are not keeping up with, the cost of living. And so that's why, and I get it. That's why Bitcoiners are so, deep into, you got to have Bitcoin, because it makes sense in theory, right? And so I don't know. That's really interesting. I don't know. It's kind of nuts, and it's kind of crazy if you think about it. How a lot of people are priced out. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but who's going to buy houses, right? And in the new world order that they're saying, no one will own anything. No one will own anything. Everything needs to be
And be
rented out.
you'll own nothing and be happy.
Yep. Yeah, that's actually the title of it.
Logan, you'll own nothing and be happy. So so there's those of us that have realized this early enough on that we can make a change in our path. We can make a change in the direction in which we're traveling in order to circumvent and hopefully avoid a lot of catastrophe in our lives based on what we found value in, right? All of these people that think that these CBDCs are going to be just amazing and that they're going to feel like they're in cryptocurrency. Most people won't even notice the difference, right? Most people aren't going to notice the difference in their day-to-days because it's just numbers on a piece of paper is all wealth is realistically. The only That's the only measurement of wealth in today's times and in most people's eyes is how much your dollar figures you have stacked behind you. To me,
Yep.
it's not. True wealth is those you surround yourself with. I'm the richest man in the world because I have some amazing people that I interact with on a day to day that love me to death and I love them back. And I know no matter what happens, that bond will never go away. So there's a lot of value in that,
Yeah.
right? And I can't say that. A lot of people don't have but one or two people that might be close to them. But yet we in this space have a lot of people that we interact with that have huge hearts and are all driven for the same end result, all of us to succeed in life. And to me, to be able to succeed is to be able to beat what it is that they're enforcing on us.
Hmm.
I always saying I always have, right? When it comes to positivity and when it comes to mindsets, you might look outside and see that it's cloudy, it's rainy, just kind of gloomy, whatever. But if you can look past the clouds, the sun is always shining.
It's
So
true.
no matter how bad life gets, there's always a bright side. You just have to see it. You just have to look for it. You have to look through the smoke screen of life. You have to look through what we call the hard times and see the positives behind them because there's always a positive. For every negative, there's a positive. You just have to find it.
Huh. That's true. That's yeah, I mean that's true, and that goes back to I want to touch on something real quick that you and I talked about before, and I don't know if we can connect it to anything right now, but I just wanted to talk about. It goes back to also the vibrations that you feel from someone's first impression. Like you can get like a vibration of some sort, right? You can just get a vibe, and it was just interesting because we talked about it, and we're like, and that goes into everything. And I don't know, man. At this point, I'm just saying random crap, but that always
No,
stuck with
no,
me, man.
so if anybody wants to go check out my YouTube channel, if you go to Mitchie's Motivational Monday and you look for my second episode, I talk about energies and vibrations, right? We all vibrate on a frequency. Everything in the world,
Yes,
everything in life
frequency.
vibrates at a frequency. And the higher your vibration, the higher your level of enlightenment and positivity actually is. Okay. So when you meet somebody that's vibrating within that same frequency range, you're going to connect. You might meet somebody for the first time and talk to them and actually feel like you've known them your whole life,
Yeah.
you know. And a lot of that is because you're vibrating at such a high level and such a equal frequency that your spirituality just kind of connects, right? So and then there's those others that vibrate at a lower frequency, the people that are just the negative Nancy's all the time, or have a lot of hate within them, and those people tend to struggle more in life. They tend to struggle to get over the hurdles that are put in front of them. And it's because they have this mindset that says they can't. And they have this energy, this vibrational energy that actually holds them down. And when you raise your vibrations, when you raise your energy and you raise your level that you vibrate at, it's incredible what you can tap into.
Hmm. Yeah, that is interesting. So as we start kind of wrapping this episode up, how do you, so for someone who's watching, because I try to be an entrepreneur, I try to do my business, sell watches, do all these things. For someone who's trying to figure out, look, I want to do something, I just can't get the idea, and I'm stuck in this terrible system that does not even encourage me. It just encourages me to be a server. I want to become someone who does something. What kind of spiel can you give people that want to be, whether they want to be entrepreneurs or they want to just do self-learning, get out of their, that terrible indoctrination that's just telling us you got to go to work, you got to do this, you got to pay your taxes,
Well,
you got to.
let me start with this. Ask yourself this question. If you ever think, how did I phrase this yesterday? I put it out in a tweet and it was pretty good. To trying to remember exactly what I said. But if you think for a minute that you never would, then don't. Like if you I'd never, then don't. But if you think for a minute that there's a possibility, then do it.
Hmm.
Stop procrastinating in life. Don't let the fear of the unknown, and that's what it is. It's a fear of the unknown. The only thing we people fear is the unknown. It's not the threat, but it's the unknown outcome of that threat that creates fear within us. And the same thing with that journey in life. If you don't know what's around the corner, but you're afraid of it, you're never going to go around the corner. So drop
Hmm.
the fear that you have, and we are our only hurdle that we will never get past if we don't let us. We're the only things that hold us back in life. People saying all the shit that they want to say is irrelevant. It's what you think in here and what you think in here that'll carry you into the future. Because if it's not here and if it's not here, the two together, because one talks to the other, right? So if it's not here, it ain't going to be there. So you have
Yep.
to put it here first, and you have to stop procrastinating, and you have to decide to just commit to something and do it, right? And you're going to fail. Let me promise you something. You will fail in life. You will fail, but it's not a failure as long as you learn from it and you move forward. There's no such, I mean, the reality is there's no such thing as a failure. The only failure in life is failing to make that step.
Failing to act. That's
There you
and I totally agree with that. If you do not, you want to fail, you want to be failing, because if there's no failure, that means there's no action. And by not putting yourself out there and stepping out of your way, you're never going to see results. You could just live that life where you're comfortable. And that's the problem. See, that's the problem. It's comfortable. And the system tries to get you to be comfortable enough. I'm telling you, it's like the Matrix. And I've made so
go.
many, I even talked to Hannah, my wife, and I'm like, are you starting to kind of get that this is kind of like the Matrix? Like they're trying to make us think that we can't step out of here. But once you take that, like, once you get your head out of the water, you're like, holy crap. You're like, I finally get it. And that's part of it. I feel like, you just gotta do it. Just like you said, that's a perfect example, man. Perfect example.
Real quick, I'd like to say hi to Legend Zog and
Oh
Alex in the
yeah.
chat. Hi guys, it's good to see both of you. Thank you for being here and checking this episode out. I hope it's been a good one for you guys. I know it has been for me. This conversation with you, Carlos, has been really good. It's almost a shame to see it end because I think we could touch on quite a few more things in
Yeah,
life. But you know, guys, it's that's just the pure fact. Get out of your own way. If you want to succeed in life, get out of your own way and don't be afraid to take that step. Don't be afraid to try it. If you don't make it, go to the next star,
yep,
right? I always shoot for the moon, and if you hit a star along the way, you did good.
that's right. Yeah, that's true. And there's no secret recipe to success. You just gotta push your way through, go around, learn things, do things. But it takes, it takes consistency, and I totally agree with you. And yeah, I gotta say hi to Legend Zog and Alex Sanchez and all these people that really support us. We know you guys, and we know you. We appreciate you all. And so, if you're watching, I never do this. I always forget. Please hit the subscribe button, and please hit a
Yes.
like the video on YouTube, follow us, share it if you can. And yeah, I always forget all this crap. I don't even got sponsors. I don't know how to do that stuff. But anyway,
Check
hey,
out
so
Mitch
yes, so
Mondays.
follow
That
him.
YouTube channel,
Yeah, so Mitch Motivational Mondays.
Mitchie's, Mitchys.
Cool. We'll have a
Yeah.
link ready next time we do one.
Oh,
Yeah, check him
actually,
out
and
there.
I started doing instructional videos now. Every once in a while, when I do a project, I'll do an instructional video on how to do whatever it was that I'm building.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
just put a
that's
couple
cool.
in the YouTube here 2 days ago. So yeah, kind of fun, something different. The only reason I think I never did that before is because there's a million of them out there. But you know what?
Yeah,
It doesn't matter how many followers you have. It doesn't matter how many people actually watch your video. As long as the people that watch your videos get something out of it, and if you just reach one person, if I just on Monday morning, if it's funny because I'll put out a tweet on Twitter and sometimes I'll just tag random people, right? And I'll always seem to get that reply back that says, I really needed to hear this today.
that's awesome. You just
And
gotta
so
make
if you
change in
just,
one life.
that's right. And so that one life changes another and it just snowballs from there.
Ripple
So
effect.
when one person can't change the world, bullshit. We can start that chain reaction.
Man, so much truth in this podcast, man. I'm gonna have to bring you again. Um, so, all right, let's finish it up with this. I usually do rapid fire questions right before people leave. So
Oh,
I'm gonna mention something. It could be a statement. It could be a question. You got to respond with one word. The first word that comes up in your mind. Okay. All right.
okay.
First one. Bitcoin.
Finance,
Litecoin.
freedom,
Peter Schiff.
dirtbag,
Federal Reserve.
crooks,
All right. Schooling system. Last one.
schooling system,
Yeah. Education system.
indoctrination.
Indoctrination. All right. Well, sounds good, man. Hey, that was good. I had a good episode. So, hey, guys, follow him on Twitter. Follow him on YouTube as well. I wish I had links. See, next time I'll be ready. But
No,
what was your Twitter again?
at Cust Carp Tree.
All right, perfect. So follow him there. You'll get a lot out of it. And we'll look forward to seeing you again in the next Coin Vigilante podcast. Thanks, man. Thanks for coming.
No problem. Thanks, guys. Have yourselves a